Alright chaps, we are now approaching the end of this international break, and that means Championship football is back this weekend. We're back again to preview all the action going on in the Championship, and as always, I want to hear from you down below. Do leave your score predictions down below. Some quite tasty matches we've got coming up this weekend. But without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out with the first of the Friday kickoffs, we've got Hull going up against Coventry. I think this has the potential to be a really interesting game. Hull coming off the back of that excellent result against Leicester before the international break. First team to beat them this season, and a really positive start that Liam Rosenior has to build upon. I do think we're going to learn quite a lot about Hull over this next block of matches. Their next 6 games are looking really quite tough on paper, but if they manage to get through this next block of games with a reasonable point return, I think they will be looking in a really healthy position. Their next 6, for context, are up against Coventry, Leeds, Stoke, Plymouth, Ipswich and Millwall, so no easy games in there whatsoever for Hull, but I think this will be a real test to see what they're made of. In this game, they're going up against a Coventry side who are still figuring their way out. They're slowly feeling their way into this new season. It was a bit of a topsy-turvy 3-3 draw they had last time with Watford. I wouldn't be totally surprised to see this one ending as a draw. I think with Coventry, they've got those threats going forward, but they're still figuring things out. Score prediction here, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, which I don't think will be the worst result for either side. And the second Friday night match we have going on in the Championship this weekend could be an absolute cracker. It's Southampton going up against Leicester. These are the 2 sides that I've tipped for automatic promotion this season. I think we'll learn quite a bit about each of them going up against each other head-to-head in this game. I like that they're meeting at this stage, the fact that both sides are coming off the back of a loss before the international break. Southampton were absolutely taken to the cleaners against Sunderland, and obviously Leicester weren't able to get past Hull. From a Southampton perspective, I think that game against Sunderland probably did bring up some of the glaring weaknesses that have been present in that Russell Martin side this season. Even going back on some of their previous performances, Norwich put 4 goals past them. Even in that game against Plymouth, I think the home side had more opportunities to score, and you'd think that Leicester would fancy their chances to get a goal or 2 in this game. But even with that being said, despite the points that Leicester have on the board right now, they've not come over that overly convincing in their opening matches, so this will be a really interesting test of character between both sides. Last season in the Premier League, I know Southampton didn't win that many matches, but they actually did do the double over Leicester, so perhaps that's a little bit of a psychological edge some of the players could have in this game. With all that being said, I'm going to go for a 4-goal thriller, but it's Wendell level. 2-2 draw, I'm saying, out of this game. I'd like to see some goals. After that and into the Saturday games, we're heading to Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Middlesbrough. Surely that first win for Middlesbrough is only around the corner. They do have a few winnable games coming up, but I do think that this one against Rovers could prove to be quite tricky. Obviously, it was a 2-0 defeat to QPR last time out, and before the international break, Middlesbrough now only one of 3 Championship clubs yet to win a match this season. And Blackburn's form has been a little bit up and down, and to be honest, that 3-0 loss they had against Plymouth before the international break was probably a little bit harsh on them in terms of the scoreline and how the actual match unfolded. Blackburn had some very good chances in that game, and going up against a Middlesbrough backline that's looked so vulnerable at times this season, I do fancy Blackburn to get a goal or 2 here. Just a question of, I suppose, if Middlesbrough can tighten up and start to become a little bit more clinical going forward themselves, because they have been creating a decent amount of chances. With all that being said, I think I probably feel more confident in backing Blackburn right now. Maybe Middlesbrough could come out of this international break like a new side, but as things stand, I think I'm going to go 2-0 Blackburn in this game and back them to get back to winning ways. Next up to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against West Brom. I think the home form is what Nigel Pearson's going to be looking to improve next up. We spoke about it in yesterday's video. I know it's a very small sample size of matches that we're using right now, but it feels like Bristol City have found a bit more of their flow on the road. I thought a fairly good away performance at Hull, and obviously got that win last time against Swansea. Now they're searching for that first home win of the season, and coincidentally, West Brom are searching for their first away win of the season, so this should be quite an interesting encounter. Don't think there'll be all too much between these 2 sides, if I'm honest. Points wise, going off these first 5 matches, there's not been much between them either. I know that West Brom had that quite disappointing result and performance against Huddersfield before the international break, but they still carry a few threats in this side, and I think I could see these 2 cancelling each other out. Score prediction here, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Huddersfield against Rotherham is a great matchup this weekend because they are two sides who I have tipped to be in and around the bottom of the Championship this season, but either side has the chance to put down a real statement performance in this game. Both teams picking up much needed wins, their first wins of the season in that game before the international break, and so could bring a little bit of momentum into this game. Brilliant away win from Huddersfield at West Brom, and obviously Rotherham got that result against the Cards against Norwich. How do I see this game unfolding? I think it'll be fairly tight between the two sides. A draw certainly wouldn't surprise me here. My gut feeling, and I know that Rotherham weren't great on the road last season, but it's just saying that maybe the Millers have a little bit more about them in the final third right now. Like I say, a draw wouldn't surprise me, and even Huddersfield winning, it could go either way. My gut feeling just says that maybe it's a bit of a smash and grab from Rotherham on the road. Score prediction here, going to go 2-1 to the Millers. Norwich against Stoke is quite an interesting matchup. We saw Alex Neil going up against one of his former sides before the international break, coming unstuck against Preston. Well, he's going to have the task of going up against another one of his former employees in this one as he makes the trip back to Carrow Road. Now, Norwich, on the whole, I've been really impressed with so far this season, but before the international break, that loss against Rotherham probably was their weakest performance of the season so far. So I'm interested to see which tactical tweaks David Wagner looks to make for this game to go ahead and outmuscle and outmatch this Stoke side, who on the whole I have still taken a fair few positives from their start, but I think we all agree it's going to take time for Neil to put all the building blocks in place. The first goal in this game is probably going to be quite important. Whenever Stoke have conceded first this season, they have gone on to lose the match, and I just think with as much attacking quality that Norwich have in this game, I can see them scoring, and I can see them scoring first, which may spell trouble for this Stoke side on the road. Stoke could definitely pull something out of the bag, but I think I'm going with my head with this one. I'm going to go 2-0 Norwich and back them to get back to winning ways in this game. Preston going up against Plymouth. This one could be an absolute cracker with Ryan Lowe going up against his former side. That adds that extra bit of spice to this fixture. But generally speaking, you know, both sides have really impressed me so far this season. My side, North End, have just been riding the crest of a wave so far this season, currently sitting top of the Championship. Everything seemingly going our way, being a really clinical outfit, and also defensively have been really sturdy, one of the best defensive outfits in the Championship so far this season. On the flip side of that, I think that Plymouth have looked really dynamic. The amount of pace and ingenuity in that forward three has really impressed me so far this season, and I can see them creating a fair few chances in this game. But as Preston have shown so far this season, we can withstand that sort of pressure. You know, there were times in the Sunderland and Stoke games especially where they had plenty of the ball in and around our box, but we've been such a solid unit that we've been able to withstand that and then hit teams on counters of our own with the players we've got in the final third. Now, from a Preston perspective, we could really be hampered by that Will Keane injury. Not had too much of an update on it since it happened, but he went off injured for Ireland over the international break, and if he is going to miss the next few fixtures, that could leave us short up front, with us still sort of getting our other forwards back and up to speed as things stand. With all that being said, I mean, everything's just fallen Preston's way of late. I could see Plymouth getting something from this game, but they have also been susceptible to conceding a late goal or two, so why not? I'll back North End in this one. 2-1 Preston. I'll say Ryan Lowe will get one over on Plymouth, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was the other way. QPR against Sunderland. This one should be a good test. QPR coming off the back of a good win before the international break against Middlesbrough, and Sunderland coming off the back of their best showing so far, putting 5 goals past Southampton. Great attacking threat. It was like a knife through butter at times. Ekwah absolutely fantastic in the middle, and plenty of threat in the final third with their forwards as well. This is the sort of game where I do think Sunderland will have more of the ball. I think they'll create more chances. It's just a question of if QPR can be rigid enough to withstand that sort of pressure and then catch them out on those breaks, and even look to use a bit of physicality perhaps against this Sunderland side, which they can be susceptible to at times. With all that being said, I was so impressed with that Sunderland showing last time that I do think they'll sneak an away win here. Sunderland have got a decent run of fixtures coming up. Having a quick scan over the next 5 or 6 games, and I do think there's a chance they could put together a bit of a winning run here. Score prediction in this game, I'm going to go 2-1 Sunderland. After that, we go to Hillsborough for Sheffield Wednesday up against Ipswich. It's amazing how quickly the perception of a side can shift just like that. I mean, these two sides were both gunning for promotion in League One last season, both going head to head, and two real top outfits that we've seen in the third tier for quite some time. With that being said, Ipswich have translated to Championship football with relative ease. They currently sit second in the Championship. We've seen some great attacking, dynamic performances from them so far. But Sheffield Wednesday, on the other hand, have really struggled to get things going. It was important to get their first point on the board before the international break with that draw against Leeds, and there were some more positives to take from that game, certainly from a defensive standpoint. Still think there are a few issues to resolve for Xisco, whereas the natural flow of goals going to come from within that side, I'm still not completely sure, and how do they add that little bit more creativity as well. With all that being said, and I'm in no doubt that Ipswich are the obvious favourites for this game, I've got a feeling that Wednesday may get something from this one. Both sides between these two ended level last season. They were both 2-2 draws when they went up against each other. I think we could have a draw on our hands here for whatever reason. Just a gut feeling I've got. Score prediction, going to go for a 1-1er in that one. Next then to Watford up against Birmingham. Don't think there'll be a whole lot in this game, to be honest. Despite there being quite a gap between these two in the table right now and the points they've already got on the board, I think that Watford will be solid enough to give Birmingham a good run for their money in this game. Birmingham probably coming into it as the slight favourites because of that form book, but Watford have already proved themselves to be quite unpredictable so far. They had that crazy 3-3 draw last time, but before that had failed to score in their previous 3 matches. Now, in terms of the head-to-heads between these two, it's definitely Watford who have had the edge over Birmingham in recent history. Blues have only won one of their last 10 meetings with Watford. With that being said, I think I am slightly favouring a Blues win in this one. Stansfield's been in good form recently with 2 goals in his last 2 matches for Birmingham. I think I'm just going to back them for a 1-0 away win. Just got a gut feeling they may get a late goal in that one. And then to the big game which everyone's excited about this weekend. It's Cardiff going up against Swansea in the South Wales derby, kicking off on Saturday night, and what a game this could be. I think it's got that extra bit of spice added to it because it's so early on in the season, and neither side has had a flawless start so far. I think that both teams have vulnerabilities which they'll each look to get into, and I mean, I for one absolutely cannot wait. Now, in terms of the recent history, Swansea have definitely had the edge in this fixture. They've won their last 4 meetings against Cardiff, so I mean, that's got to fire up that squad to go ahead and change around that statistic. In fact, Cardiff have only won 1 of their last 9 meetings with Swansea, which is absolutely crazy. This fixture also doesn't tend to throw up many draws. Only 1 of the last 14 South Wales derbies has ended as a draw. Now, from a Swansea perspective, it feels like this is a little bit of a sliding doors moment for Michael Duff. I know it's still very early on in his tenure, but I think because of the slow and sluggish start that Swansea have had to this new campaign, it still feels like from the outside looking in, he's yet to win over all of that fan base. But what better way to go ahead and do it than to maybe put on a statement performance and victory in this game. On the flip side of that, I think you also run the risk that if Swansea don't show up to this game and they do look as vulnerable as they have done in some of their previous fixtures, suddenly things can turn a little bit toxic, and ultimately it then could be a long way back for Duff to win a lot of that fan base over. From an attacking aspect, I've liked more from what I've seen from Cardiff so far this season, but I think they've still got their vulnerabilities that Swansea can pick apart. Swansea have had all the joy in this fixture recently, and they could wake up into life in this fixture after a slow start, but my gut feeling, and I've backed Swansea a lot recently in this fixture, is saying that Cardiff maybe take this one after all the drama of last year. Score prediction here, I'll go 2-1 Cardiff and back the home side to get one over on their rivals. And then to finish things off on Sunday, we've got another very tasty looking fixture as Millwall go up against Leeds United. This one could definitely throw up some drama. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Millwall approach this in a way where they look to frustrate Leeds for large portions of this match and then look to have those breakaway attacks. We've seen Millwall been quite willing to soak up the pressure in a few of their matches so far. On average, they have faced 17 shots per game, which is the 4th most in the Championship. And while they've not had the most quality in the final third so far, it still feels like there's more to come from that Millwall side in an attacking sense. Still feels like Zian Fleming has properly got to click into the season, and obviously getting to see a little bit more of Nisbet now from open play, which is promising promising as well. From a Leeds perspective, it was quite a frustrating goalless draw last time against Sheffield Wednesday. Wednesday showed in that game maybe a template of how to approach those sorts of games against Leeds. And we spoke in yesterday's video about Farke maybe needing to formulate that plan B for teams that are willing to sit off them a little bit. So this will be a good game. And the way that I'm thinking about this fixture right now, I think I'm swaying towards a draw, you know. Going to go for a 1-1 draw at the Den between those two. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do get your comments and score predictions down below. Apart from that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in and I'll see you all in the next one.